This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, folks. The time being 4:47. I'd like to call this meeting of September 19th, 2024 to the order. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we do not have donations tonight. It'll be the next meeting. They're still coming in memory of Paul. We have, let the record show that Selectman Dawson is still recovering and will be out tonight. Selectmen's reports, John Scanlon.
I did some work on the area on Main Street around the entering Tilton sign. I'm not sure if that sign, the lights have been repaired yet on that. You can check into that. The lights are out. So we have a new manager at Lowe's. So I don't know if you reached out and met with him or her. So there's somebody new. And that piece of property is maintained by Lowe's, but for the past 10, 12 years, I've been doing it myself.
Right.
Yeah.
I did see some notes, John, with your conversation, but that light is still out, is what you're saying.
Last time I checked, it was. I can double check tonight. I think we have somebody who might have some information right here. The chair wishes to recognize Shane.
Go ahead, Shane.
So I went up to and called Lowe's, and of course Casey's no longer there. So I talked to Joy, and she got back to me and said they were putting a work order in for it. So it's in the works.
Yeah.
Which light is this? Is this the Welcome to Tilton?
Yes.
Well, last night around 9 o'clock when I was coming down the hill from there was a gentleman that was out working on that light, Welcome to Tilton. So I don't know if it works or not.
Maybe it is fixed at this
There
time.
was a gentleman working on it. I thought it was you, John, but so I didn't stop.
Electrical, and it's not my thing. I didn't want to make anything worse. So been working on that. The Historical Society has, I went to the meeting with them, and they've got a great thing going on with a graveyard tour and some reenacting of some of the citizens in Tilton, and they'll be playing the parts of some of the important citizens that are buried at the grave. I've been appointed to do George Lord. I think he's the guy who jumped off the roof or slip walk off the roof. So that should be exciting. I don't know what my part will be, but it's exciting. And I'm looking forward to that, I think. So they also approved they talked to the cemetery and got some monies, and they are buying some liquid, the D2 solution for cleaning some of the graves that are of citizens that are under perpetual care, and they've gotten a letter approving that. So that will be going on. Besides that, somebody mentioned to me about all the signs, and I explained to them that, the rules with the political signs, that they have a certain period of time to take them down. And they said they weren't political signs, but so I went out and I took a ride up to just past Home Depot, almost to the golf course, and there was 29 signs that were not political out there. And then from Walmart down to Dunkin' Donuts were 17 signs. that are not political. So, and in fact, there's so many advertising to make the signs to put out there.
Okay.
So, and there's two of those. We make these advertising signs, and I don't know if Eric was aware of it, but there's an ordinance on offsite advertising. People can, in their own yards, they can make political statements, as I understand, and that's covered under the Constitution. But political signs have a window of time, a certain number of days after election, that they have to be removed.
72
And
hours.
Is it 72
Yep.
hours? And then there's a certain period of time before that they're allowed to post them, um,
But if they're not political signs,
if they're not political signs, they go against our offsite advertising ordinance.
Now, can we just pick those up?
We can get the code enforcement officer to do that tomorrow, Joe. We'll send
I believe
that person out.
we take them, we put them at the public
Highway
works
highway
for a
department.
period
Yep.
of time
Right.
from the dumpster.
Right.
I'm sure she will have something to say about the recycling, but I'm pretty excited about that. It's been a project, and happy to see that up and going. That's great. Thanks. That's all I have to say.
Eric, you're next.
I don't have any reports right now.
Oh, you were going to bring some things up.
Oh, yes. I can. Yeah. So
This is the time when we
Yeah.
bring up things that
yeah,
you
so
wanna bring up.
I had two citizens connect with me. One was concerning the parking on Winter Street during school. So I know that's probably been talked about in the past. So I haven't gotten a chance to do research on it yet, but obviously you guys will have a lot more information about that.
Which part of Winter Street?
So it'd be down where the school, by the middle school.
We're getting ready to pick up, right?
Yep. I know. So I said I'd bring it up, talk to you guys about it.
I don't think that's been brought up too many times here. Winter Street.
Not Winter Street, no,
No?
out in front of the high school.
Yeah.
But we have an officer there.
Right.
Yeah. So their concern was how people are parking partially in the road,
Mhm.
which is causing issues for
Yeah.
flow of traffic. I know I've experienced it multiple times. And I'm sure that others have as well. But I didn't I didn't look to see if we've had any conversations about it and whatnot. So I would be open to hearing kind of what the police department thinks about, what we think about, because it is kind of it is an issue.
I can't remember here in the board for a very, very long time that we've had discussions on Winter Street. Plenty of other discussions on the front and parking on the middle school, the parking area
Mm-hmm.
going from Winter Street into the parking area, but nothing. Is the chief here? No? Okay.
No.
You can ask him when he comes back in.
Yeah, I think I want to say years back, there was an officer that would go over there
Mhm.
and kind of try to move people along.
Mhm.
I get it. Kids are waiting. Parents are waiting for their kids and whatnot. I understand that. But I think too, if you're obstructing the road.
Does it happen
can
at
cause-
special times of the day?
Yep,
Drop
it's-
off, pick
yeah,
up?
it's usually just drop off and pick up
Oh, okay.
are the two biggest issues. And I know the middle school has done a really good job of trying to make sure that traffic is in as far as possible. Right. So, yeah. So I'll do a little research. I'll talk to the chief as well and kind of see if there's been
Okay.
any history on it.
Follow back with us on
Yep.
that? Okay.
Yep. And then the other thing was in reference to an issue on Noise Road with some residents there, and um, I'm I'm still looking kind of into it because I'm trying to find some information about it. Basically, some of the residents there are complaining about some other residents, but there's also some other issues that are going on. I think the PD has been on that road a few times. So I have an email that I will forward to you all in reference to that as well. I got it the other day. So, but yeah, I mean, those are the two things I have.
Oh, good. Sounds good. Joe, do you have anything?
Only that last night's budget committee was canceled. They didn't have any cases.
Uh,
And the other thing is we have a new water commissioner at Lockmere Village, Attorney Stevenson. I say welcome, certainly, and Victor Conforti is the chairman, acting chairman. And that's my whole report.
Okay. I just have a couple of things. Upstairs, we have employees that are very, very, very excited about Halloween. They went downstairs a couple of years ago. We were very lucky to get, was it grant money that grant are left over from Walmart items that were donated from us downstairs, and there's boxes in boxes of leftover costumes, small children costumes. And so Johanna and Cindy would like to box them up before they get destroyed downstairs, and possibly make a central site for those, maybe Hall Memorial, and see if we could donate those to kids that don't have costumes this year. So, and the other thing is that they found a number of boxes of, those little packages of 3 crayons in a package that we could put on our table to give away at Halloween night. A good housekeeping rule that we get permission from the board.
Yeah, me too.
Everybody,
Yeah, I think it's a good
everybody
idea.
go with that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The senior bus is out and about. I am going to ask that we do remove the mandate that bus drivers receive a medical card for a couple of reasons. Number one, we don't have a bus. It's not over 10,000 pounds, even though we were exempt. Municipalities, that's a second reason, municipalities are exempt from all of those rules. And second of all, it will hinder greatly for us to get us bus drivers. We have a Ford Transit, a 350 Ford Transit. It's much easier to drive. I just feel that we can lift that restriction.
So you want to
We
lift the restriction of a medical card?
had it on there because we actually had a bus, a school bus, with a wheelchair ramp, with full blown, wheelchair access on and off, and they needed to be trained by a student.
Yep.
A bus driver, and we paid each driver to be fully trained as a driver to know that bus in and out,
Yep.
up and down.
Okay.
This is a van. It's a
Yep.
15-passenger van, if you would. And the municipalities are exempt from having to require medical cards. So I am asking for that.
I just have a
Yeah,
couple
go
of
ahead.
questions.
Sure.
One is, are the drivers for the vans for moving forward, or have they been like CPR trained, first aid trained, anything like that?
We CPR train them through fire department,
Okay.
and we also still will have them trained by somebody that is trained with buses,
Okay.
if you would, to
Yep.
make sure that they check everything
Okay.
before they drive.
So
We
no.
will still all do everything that there is to do, but
Yep.
before it was a transportation, it was
Mhm.
a different, there were lights on it, there was a lot of different, there's none of that here now
Okay.
that we're required to do.
So what's the difference with having the medical card and not? What is that? Is that just to get the okay from a physician
Mhm.
to say that you're capable of operating the vehicle?
Operating the vehicle.
I'm a little concerned with that, just because if they are going to be transporting people, I mean, I would want to make sure that they passed. I see your point, Pat. That would be my only hangup, is I would want to make sure that we have somebody behind the wheel is cleared by some type of a physician or doctor. That's just my thought. I get it. Like, I think you're right. It might make it a little bit more difficult. That's my only. What do you think?
I know for sure that we'll lose 2 bus drivers if we continue to do that.
Okay.
If I may. I think there's a couple other things, we want to
Turn
make.
your mic on.
Yeah, it should be.
You need to turn it.
Yeah.
You need to talk
it-
into it, though. Thanks. There you go.
Test. So one of my concerns are, I know if you have somebody in your household that's going to be operating your vehicle, that the insurance company has their information, so they're listed as an additional insured. The other thing is if they're a volunteer, do they have a volunteer form filled out that we require people to have? And any requirements that the insurance company says that we should have, so that if something did happen, the town is covered for it.
We have their license. We have they're a member of our committee, which means that they are part of the town, which means that they're covered under Primex while driving that vehicle.
Okay.
And the thing
Right.
would be is typically, I know when
Right.
I work somewhere or do something that I have to be an additional insured, as well as when I did stuff with Lehigh, they had to have them listed for operating with the insurance company, and just they list their stuff as additional insured in case they do get an accident. But whatever the insurance company requires, so that we are covered, I think would be best if it came from them.
When we first started the program, I went to the sergeant at the Troop G, who was also in charge of the passenger school bus program for DMV. And I talked to him for quite a long time, and I said, well, what are you thinking? He said, well, municipalities are exempt from it. But I said, well, that's not what I'm asking. Because of the size of the bus,
Mhm.
and because of what you're entailed to do, and because of the amount of doors that open and close, and you have a wheelchair ramp, it would be my suggestion, and only my suggestion, if I were one of the people that were on the Board of Selectmen, I would vote yes for a medical card. However, if it were a van, it would be very different. And that stuck with me.
Mhm.
So I have always been a proponent. I happen to have a CDL. I happen to carry a medical card.
Yep.
So it's not about me driving the bus.
Mhm.
I just want to make that very clear. So it's a very different alligator when you're driving a van. It's not, you're not looking through an extended mirrors. You're not looking through down for your wheels.
Yep.
And you're not looking through a little tiny mirror out the door over some wheelchairs.
Yep.
It's very different driving I call them a school bus, a special needs bus, rather than a senior bus, which is what we were driving, was a special needs bus.
Mhm.
Then a van. It's less than 10,000 pounds. It's very different driving. I drove it from Hooksett up to Tilton. It's very different driving. I had no issues with it. I had no blind spots whatsoever that I could see. I had
So, so anybody that's driving that bus is covered
under
under
Primax.
Primax.
In our committee,
Yep.
it's that we have vetted, that
Yep.
we have trained,
Yep.
that are on our committee. Not someone that can just take it and go for a joyride. No.
Right. So I mean, realistically, anybody that's going to be driving that bus is going to be vetted through the committee anyways.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
So how many volunteers do we have right now? Do you know?
We have 3 volunteers, 1 dropped out currently.
Okay. Well, I think if we're insured under Primax, if they're insured under Primax and they're vetted and Primax has approved that they are, then I'm okay with that.
Is there an issue with calling Primex and just verifying what our procedure is on this? I think phone call is very inexpensive as opposed to possibility of litigation. Call them up and say, hey, this is what we got now. Are we clear? And they'll say yes or do X, Y, and Z, and then we're covered.
Okay,
Doesn't hurt to take,
That's where I'm at too.
So we'll,
I understand Eric's concern. I'm not as concerned as that, but I agree with John in that we should check with our insurance company, make sure that it's not a thing, and it's only a phone call. Then I would be totally good to go without medical card.
a phone call in 2 weeks. So shall I cancel the appointments that we already have for the bus?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I was talking to Tim, but is the question,
If the committee people that are driving the bus insured under Primax?
I don't think we need to wait.
I would go so far as to approve that in advance. If Primex says that we're covered and the drivers are covered, that we allow the volunteer drivers to then drive the van.
Yeah. I mean, we could,
You can find out
Call 'em
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
you can call tomorrow.
We'll check
Right.
into that, and I can send out a notice informational only to the board once we find out. I don't believe there was any concerns. I was in there to report some injury stuff, and I happened to just be nosy to look at, what we had for property liability and that stuff. So I don't think there was any concerns.
Yeah.
But
I
we'll check
thought-
and follow it up.
I thought Tim checked this out before when we were driving the bus versus driving a personal vehicle. Didn't we check this with Primex already?
Jeannie had, yes.
And what was the answer?
I believe that the drivers are covered.
Okay.
And
Are we
when they use their-
100% sure?
When they use their
Or
personal.
would a phone call
or when
tomorrow
they-
morning cover?
We're all in agreement that barring no problems with Primex.
Do you have
we're all
appointments
good
tomorrow?
for it.
Do you have appointments? Do we have appointments tomorrow for the bus?
No, we don't have
The-
appointments, but the issue came when the bus was down very recently,
Mhm.
and we had two people that were driving their personal vehicles, and we found out that they were not covered.
Yeah.
Uh,
Which,
in their personal vehicles, and there was an issue, but they were covered if they were on the bus. And so that's how I know they're covered when they're on the bus.
That's correct.
okay.
So
It'll be
I don't
no
know why we're
problem.
belaboring the issue. That's all. We'll find out in the morning if that's what you want to do. I don't have a
I
problem with
would,
that.
I would appreciate it.
No problem with it. Okay, Mr. And a resident came to us for an abatement because he had an aerial view of his property for land use change tax.
Yep.
I spoke with the assessor, and she stands by her assessment of the property. And however, she did say that if the board did want to abate just the land use change tax, we could do so, but it remains that that person would continue from here on in being assessed as that value on the property as such for the acreage. So going forward, he wouldn't have any penalty in the $670. We would, if approved, we would abate. And going forward, would, however, saying that he's using it, he's not using it. It's the same since what?
Was this the one for the aerial photos that we looked? Okay.
Mhm.
So he's saying he's not using it?
He's saying he's not using it, and the assessor did an aerial. I think the pictures was 1952, and the other picture was 2024.
Yeah.
So, it's entirely up to the board what we want to do, or we can wait for 2 weeks when hopefully Catherine will be back.
So the assessor says that they did change use, and the resident says that they didn't.
A portion of that land did change use. Would amount to the market value, 10% of the market value, which was, he was billed $670.
Yeah.
Well, I think my same question was last time was, what was the change to it? Because I looked at those pictures, I did not see any change. It looked pretty much maybe some trees growing,
Yeah.
or
Was
maybe
around
something
the
was
front-
mowed a little shorter than before, but it didn't seem like there was a change.
It was in the front of the house. It was along the front of the house towards Lancaster that was changed.
And how was it changed?
There was more of the land that was mowed.
Yeah.
If you mow your grass shorter.
Which is what Catherine brought up as well at the last meeting, was
And
the
so,
mowing was like,
It's, you can't, if
Right.
you do it, you can't.
right.
Right.
And that's the contention that the assessor says is because if you mow your lawn as opposed to letting it grow long, that it's itching.
Correct.
That seems kind of odd.
Well, it's in the definition, so.
Or the height that you mow your yard. Or,
Mm-mm. No, it's in the definition of curtilage. Go ahead, Joe.
Pay a lot of money to a professional assessor. None of us are professional assessors. I'm certainly not. And our assessor has a pretty good track record. So I personally don't think that, although kind of doesn't make sense to me, I'm not gonna vote against the professional just because I don't get it. She could have just said, "Yeah, okay, you're right," except she didn't, and then she's got no skin in the game here. She doesn't get paid any more or less. He's given her professional opinion, and we could laugh at it or not.
I personally would recommend abating the $670, but that would, I think we should wait for the decision when Catherine is here. So you want to, that, and at that point, we could,
I mean, I agree with Joe.
It also takes forms and people to make those forms, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Joe. I understand. I mean, professional and
So
Gotta
we'll
take-
just wait for Catherine.
Okay.
yeah.
could you give a clear explanation to us as a
Or
board?
have Lauren come or something.
Yeah.
Well,
I
She
think
made her decision.
she gave us a clear, I don't have I didn't bring them, I'm sorry. I didn't think that I would need to explain it again, but she gave us a very clear description of why she felt it was, I'll send it to you tomorrow, John.
yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll wait for Catherine. I think,
I'll-
yeah.
I'll
I remember, but
redo the email to you again, John. It was a very clear, decisive
Yeah.
description of what she did. I'll send it to you all. Okay, the third thing or fourth thing, I think it is, I attended a webinar today on changes to planning and zoning laws in 2024, and there were a couple that stuck in my brain from noontime on, and one was the ability to, hope I say this right. Don't yell at me now if I say it wrong. The local option to authorize governing body to make zoning changes expanded. So HB 1400, RSA 79E, I'm sorry, RSA 674-18A provides a local option for local governings with zoning authority vested in their legislative body in the with non-chartered towns, village districts with independent zoning authority, to vote to allow their governing bodies to adopt amendments to local zoning ordinances and local zoning map. Under prior law, only cities and charter towns had the authority to decide whether to grant this authority to governing bodies. Now, the non-chartered towns and village district with independent zoning authority in counties in which there are local unincorporated places to vote Now we all do, and that takes a vote at town meeting. The other thing I wanted to draw people's attention to as well is the community revitalization tax relief, which allows the local legislative body of a municipality to establish tax relief for the owners of a building or structure currently being used for office use in whole or part, if such use is converted to residential use in whole or in part. The governing body of a municipality is responsible for designating the boundaries of the office conversion zone within the municipality where the tax relief shall apply. So they're able to give a tax relief maximum of 5 years for them to convert office space into residential. And there's a few other changes coming for planning and zoning. They'll be up, but if you want, they're available. Anybody wants a copy of them, I can email them to you.
Yeah, please.
And that does it for me. And okay, so now we have the ATA list of follow-up needed for Scott, whatever that is.
Actually, I have my report. It's underneath your finance tabs in your books. And in your last meeting, I was, which I was not present for, the board had asked where we would get the funding for the work to be done on Morrison Avenue. So you all have my report, Andy? Okay. So item number one is relative to some options. So we currently have $115,386 as of the end of August in the capital reserve account for roads, streets, bridges, and sidewalks. The work that was approved for Morrison Avenue is $59,850. That's the work that is projected to be done at the end of this month. And then the top coat for Morrison Avenue and Grant Street is $46,000 that would be done in the spring. So the total cost of those two projects is $105,850, which if both of those were charged against the capital reserve fund for roads, streets, bridges, and sidewalks, would leave us with a balance of $9,500. And anticipating the fact that if we have a warrant article to add $90,000, obviously that would bring us to a total of just shy of $100,000 for next year, for all of next year, for the capital reserve fund for roads, streets, bridges, and sidewalks. Item two, relative to this, is regarding the monies that we have remaining for ARPA and the American Recovery Act, and including the costs of a garage door for the recycling building, which I'll get into in a second. We should have an available balance of $92,992 yet to either commit or spend, one of which would have to be done prior to the end of this year, or we forfeit the funds. So this is a hard deadline of 12/31/24 to either have a firm commitment, in other words, a purchase order or a signed contract, or have spent the funds. So my recommendation is that we would spend the first part of the Morrison Avenue work that would be done this fall out of the ARPA funds, which is $59,850. And that would leave a balance of roughly $33,000, a little over $33,000 remaining, which is going to be needed to replace one of the police admin vehicles, which right now has over 160,000 miles on it and is requiring a significant amount of work to keep it on the road. So in any event, getting back to the Morrison Avenue, that would be my recommendation, that we would not use the capital reserve fund for that at this time. We'd preserve the balance so that we have that available for the other projects this next year, and that we pay for that out of the ARPA balance. The other item at the very end of the listing for ARPA projects that we've spent money on, you'll see that it's relative to the transfer station, and that is the upgrade for the electrical, as well as some of the other costs that were associated with that. And in your departmental review, you have 4 quotes that the Public Works Director received for garage doors for the recycling building. And they range from $2,450, $2,445, $3,100, and $2,868 to put a garage door in. And if you've seen the building, you see where the openings are. But then for the enclosed portion, there's black plastic that's hanging there. In any event, the director has recommended a particular vendor. And did you want to speak to that, Shane, while we're...
Yeah, I talked to the 4 choices, and I'd like to do Belmont garage door.
And that's $2,450 installed. Right.
Yeah, installed.
Where's the extra $5 going?
That'll be adjusted. At the time, I didn't have the, when I wrote that up, I didn't have the lowest quote, I don't believe.
Oh, it's for coffee. Right over.
So so we would ask the board for approval to purchase that award Belmont garage door. The bid for that of $2,450.
So moved.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to award Belmont Garage for the door and install for the transfer station upgrade, $2,450. Discussion? Go ahead, Joe.
I'm wondering what makes this garage door worth $2,500.
It's just your standard garage door. They're all just...
I was going to put a garage door in my garage. It would cost me $2,500.
More,
if not more.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a motor put on it or anything.
right?
It's just, you just lift it up.
I just put one in 6 months ago. It was $2,800.
I got some
I
bids.
won't be replacing my garage door anytime soon.
Yeah, I got some bids on replacing a panel in a door, and it was $1,200.
Wow.
Go ahead, Tim.
Could you include that to be paid for through ARPA funds, please?
Yes, we will include on that motion to include to be paid by opera funds.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion reads, motion was made by Pat to accept the bid for Belmont Garage Door for $2,450 for the transfer station upgrade for the garage door and install to be paid for by ARPA money, seconded by Eric. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Probably at your next meeting, we'll have the chief present so he can discuss the fleet and the needs of the fleet. Scott Scott Hilliard, the chief, and I have been working on this and looking at the hours of the vehicles, the miles. And as you know, we went through a period where it was very difficult to get vehicles. We now have 3 frontline Tahoes, but the middle portion of the fleet, in particular the admin cars, the admin vehicles, are needing replacement. And those we're anticipating will come to the board to look for 2 used vehicles. As they are admin, they don't need to be frontline, they don't need to be marked in the same manner. And so in any case, we'll plan to do that at a subsequent meeting, but this will then leave 33,000 and change available in the ARPA funds, providing the board approves paying for the R&D paving quote for Morrison Avenue out of ARPA funds.
Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead, John.
Are you looking for a motion to switch the 59,850 from capital reserve to ARPA at this time?
Right, and it did, when it was accepted, I don't believe there was a discussion of specifically where it was going to be paid from, and that's why the board had asked, for a recommendation, and my recommendation is pay for it out of these ARPA funds, because we have very limited time to commit or spend them, and and then that also preserves the capital reserve fund for other projects down the road. So if the board would consider making a motion to that effect to pay for the R&D paving work on Morrison Avenue in the amount of $59,850 to be paid for by ARPA funds.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Go ahead, Joe.
We've had that road band-aided for years, and then this year we were going to fix it, except for it didn't really get fixed and now has to be redone. I'm not entirely sure, and I remember for the gentleman from R&D Paving was very, he knew his business. And one of the things he said was that we should have an engineer look at the plan or develop a plan. Because if we do it again for $59,000 and whatever, that guy's basement is still flooded because it wasn't done properly.
My understanding, he was going to go back and check with the engineer. Am I right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
You were. Yes.
Yeah.
What happened to that?
My discussion, Madam Chair,
ahead.
my discussion in this project was that if we discussed in depth milling it
Yeah.
or reclaiming it,
Mhm.
and milling it would identify and correct that one specific problem, but that we should in fact look at any time we were doing any of these, we should look at engineering in the desire of the slope of the road. There was considerable discussion from the general manager who was with Jeff, who was the engineer on that.
But I thought he was going to take a look, and then if needed be, that there was going to be reclaiming rather than just milling on one section, and he would get back to us as to if there was a different opinion with the engineers.
I'm looking at Shane, but I recall the discussion that obviously it wasn't correct in its first application, but that the milling the road would in fact fix the problem that Selectman Jesselman talked about versus reclaiming it, because reclaiming it basically was going to add more to the increase in the road, the depth of the pavement.
That's why we're having the problem.
Right.
Okay.
That was what I looked through the minutes and read through that when that conversation was done, when R&D
Okay.
came. So that was my understanding too, was
Mm.
that they were going to get back to us on that portion.
And Shane says he hasn't heard from Jeff. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
We will look into that.
As I
Okay.
recall, he did go out and speak. There was one neighbor that was in particular concerned about the height, and they said they might have to re-engineer the road because he said it will be a nominal 5 inches. And he did speak with that neighbor, butter to the road, and they agreed and explained that it's a nominal 5 inches. Somewhere it might be 2 inches taken off. In
Correct.
other areas it would be 7 inches.
Correct.
So in that area, and they came up with some type of agreement. So as long as they came up with an agreement, they decided they wouldn't have to have an engineer to completely redo the whole road.
Right. That was my understanding as
Yeah.
well.
Well, I got that, but there was talk about he was going to get back to us.
Mhm. I thought that's
But he
what the
hasn't.
case was too,
Right.
Joe. I did. I don't know what the answer was. Shane, will you get back to us on that, please, when you talk with them tomorrow?
So we
Okay.
could still make the motion
Correct.
Yes.
to move it over.
Yep.
Right.
Correct.
Because we
Absolutely.
have to start anyways.
Yes, we
We
have
have
to
to
do
start
the work.
committing some of this
Yeah.
money.
Yeah,
to
and
specific.
he was specific that if it didn't start before, I think October 1st, that it would go to the next year and then the prices would be
Yeah, I'm
different
pretty
too.
sure that's what I read in the minutes as well.
Mike, please.
I talked to him just the other day, and they're scheduled. They're hoping to be there for November 1st
Okay.
to do it,
Okay.
as long as everything goes right with them.
As Madam Chair, as I'm sure the board understands, the plants begin closing, the
Right.
asphalt plants in November. So
Right.
Tim and I had this discussion with Shane, trying to get a defined date, so we would know for sure.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Okay. So be it.
Great, thank you. Flipping over the page, so currently I'm working on the budget. We are missing some items. That's my item number 3. We're waiting on insurance figures that we'll have this next month. We also have some outside agencies and some boards and committees that I'm waiting on some information from. But it's coming together pretty quickly. The draft, I put the draft summary in my report, which I will guarantee you that it will change. So that's the one guarantee I can make. But as of now, we are looking at a $99,500 increase year over year, which is a 1.7% increase. And that does take into account a change in personnel, whereas we have had we budgeted for a second detective for 24, but we're unable to fill the position. And then that position was going to be handled differently through the end of the year. It is back into the budget for 25. And there's also an open patrol currently that may also roll into 25. So there's also a DPW position open and a town hall position open. So there are about 4 positions right now that are open. So in any event, we've been trying as best as we can to keep it as low as possible, as flat as possible year to year. There's still some unknowns, particularly with our tax anticipation note, with the Fed reducing rates yesterday. I'm waiting to see what that's going to mean for our interest rate for this next year for borrowing. And once I have those things as soon as we start getting some of these items, I'll be able to finalize that. And the board will be seeing the department heads and going through the detail, as well as the budget committee. I'm also working on the end of year projections and for tax rate setting. And really hopeful we're not going to run into the problem that we had last year. The Tilton Northfield Water District held us up, unfortunately, along with Northfield, because they had a special meeting for a bond. And the Department of Revenue Administration, which oversees the tax rate setting process, would not allow either town to set a tax rate, even though the water district has no ability to tax the general populations of Tilton and Northfield. It would just be their users. So in other words, like a usage tax. So, but in any case, we went right down to the wire last year, and as you may recall, the tax bills went out very late. It stressed our cash flow to a frightening end of year, and from a cash flow perspective. And we survived that, but we're trying to be very proactive. We've been in contact with the school to make sure that they have their data in, and that would also mean the village districts like the Lockmere Water, Tilton Northfield Water, and that we get everything in place, that they get everything in place to DRA so that we can get our tax rate set early enough. I will be making recommendations on the use of fund balance once we see where things are. We're also waiting on the school to see what fund balance that they have that'll be returned to the three towns. That'll have a large bearing on that. And then also the fire district is unfortunately going to be a good increase this year because of the budget changes from year to year. So in any event, that's where we are currently, and you'll be getting the detailed budget reports that have the narratives and detail information along with each line of the detail, so that you'll see what changes there are, and I'll be happy to do a presentation once we have a final draft budget. And then the last item I have here is relative to the Tahoe 3 vehicle. So, as you may recall, I've been doing some double duty for the last few months, and have been going back and making sure that we've accounted for everything as we had expected. And the vehicle that we purchased was a total cost of $67,017, including the upfitting and the vehicle itself. We encumbered $35,000 of 2023 operating budget money, but that left a balance of $32,017. Now, my recommendation, well, the motion at the time when this was done, when the money was encumbered, was to pay for the balance either out of the detail fund or from the forfeiture funds. And because this is a frontline car and may be used in drug interdiction, it qualifies to be able to be used for forfeiture funds, which by using those funds, it allows us to free up the special detail funds that we collect towards another vehicle in the future. So in any event, I need a motion from the board to allocate those $32,017 that need to be allocated. And I'm recommending that the board provide a consensus or a motion to instruct the treasurer to transfer $32,017 from the federal forfeiture account to the town account to make for that payment.
So moved.
And Scanlon second. Need a couple questions.
Sure.
So I'm looking, the federal forfeiture fund is 34,835.72. That's the total balance in it?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're not using all of it.
No.
The other question is, in previous years, what have we been using the federal forfeiture fund for? Are we going to end up having to use that money now, taken out of another fund, you know?
So in the entire time I've been here, we've used it once because the balance, there's only been one large balance that's been transferred to it, and this was from when we had prior group in detectives, when we were in the old building. This goes that far back. And the only other use that I recall was for the for our phone software, for the Cellbrite software, and that was just 1 year that was used.
I'm good with that.
And we will still have a balance in both the federal forfeiture and the state forfeiture accounts, albeit they'll be small. And there are very specific requirements as to how those monies can be used. And that's why this is permissible for this vehicle, to be used for this vehicle. And it frees up then the PD detail fund, which is less restrictive for other vehicles.
A little bit more than $5,000 left in that.
Correct.
Thanks, Tim. So a motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Thank you very much. That's the end of my report. Appreciate it.
I have one more announcement, actually, too. This Saturday is the Vicky Virgin, come on in, have a seat. Vicky Virgin Annual Drive, Feed the Hungry, Market Basket, 9 to 3. In case anybody wants to know what the Vicky Virgin Annual Drive is, Vicky has dedicated many hours of her day working in the food pantry, making sure those in need did not go without. At Thanksgiving, you could always find Vicky in the church kitchen cooking the holiday meal. This food drive was created to perpetuate her hard work, providing those in need. All proceeds will be given to the Northfield Tilton Congregational Food Pantry, which Vicky started. Vicky was a selectman years and years ago, before she passed away. And we've done this now for almost 12 years in her honor. So there will be 2 days this year, September 21st and October 5th, 9 to 3. So if you can't make the first one, please, even if it's a couple cans of soup, it will help. The second one is an Eversource. It says, "Hello, plants people," and I know we have some in the audience. It's as a part of our everyday commitment to sustainability and responsible environmental stewardship. Eversource is happy to share our newest poster, Nature's Natives, a listing of 30 native utility-compatible trees, shrubs, and perennials. So this is available here. We should probably pass this along to Parks and Conservation. That was in the FYI, just took it out. Do we have time? We have 9 minutes to go through the minutes. Waiting for people to come in. September 5th. Eric, you have
I just had two.
state the page and everything, paragraph.
So we'll start right with under Academy Street discussions, RFPs, request. A couple of things that were happening with the road is up the hill and goes.
Well,
The way.
there are holes in the top surface, which allows the water to go underneath the asphalt right now. Oh, I see. Oh, it's before that, up the hill. Got it.
So I just said that we change that.
That comes
Just
down the hill. Okay. Yep.
so halfway down that long paragraph.
Did we appoint someone different?
Yep. So those are the only two things.
Halfway down?
Yep.
Well, you showed up at the beginning of the meeting. What happened?
No.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Someone else took over. So those are the only two things I have.
Well, that makes it easy. That goes back for revision. Okay. Thank you, Selectman Evans.
Yes. So whatever. Scott, we're gonna have to change my business cards again.
We'll get that taken care of.
No problem. Money in the budget.
Sure.
Not out of my candy budget.
Well, that's where
I'm already sharing it with Halloween. All right, in August 29th, we've already dealt with.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Um, Scott, I don't think that you can do justice to your report
In 7 minutes,
in 7 minutes.
6 now.
I don't think that that's fair to you.
Actually, no, I probably can't, so.
So,
I can draw it out a lot longer than that. I have a question.
we can make a motion to do a 7-minute recess.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
It's very interesting. I'd like to, I wonder if it's located on their website too. You know, that would be, yeah, I find it.
Get the gas tax, you guys can afford this. Don't have the gas tax. Oh, yeah. Nice to meet you. How are you? You can sit in front of me? Just lucky you're here. Unless they're gonna put some money in the account.
Yeah.
Not like Connecticut. Can do just that, you know.
So I'm not sure if I can stay late.
Right there.
Go, but I, you know, yeah, and that's why I made sure I stayed.
It's only, we only have thing and then we're done. Yeah, we do. Oh, no, we have. We already know.
So, I wonder if I could leave and call in by phone while I'm driving down there. I've got, she spent a day and a half in the emergency. It's, I mean, one of the second cousin, once removed for 45 years. And she's disabled, and I'm the only family member she has. So, yeah.
Those we have.
Yeah, form. Well, I'm just wondering if I could do it over the phone. I can be driving down there. Yeah. Because if I leave here by 7, or a little bit after 7, I can get there before 8 because they won't allow me in.
A PowerPoint. You guys can sit up there, but we're gonna turn it.
We'll have, we can have a from that.
Yeah. And then I can just listen in.
Right. Because that's all it is. And I don't think Scott's got, you read Scott's report, right?
Yeah. Oh, the town admin report. Yeah. So both those hearings, I should be here for what? Because it would look, people be upset if there's only 3. Hi. Just marvelous.
What, for this road? Program now is if we don't, allow them to pay for it.
Okay. I mean, you'll still have a quorum, so basically, no real decisions or anything. Yeah. Just informing.
How much do I, considering that my address is in there as far as not having the line of sight?
Where it is now, it hits the berm.
But on this,
Yeah.
And it just, it just.
I would preface every statement you make with, I live on this road. When they were doing Silver Lake, I live on Silver Lake Road.
Yep.
And I had an opinion about Silver Lake Road. I used to say every time, I live on Silver Lake. But this is what I think. You can take whatever you want out of that.
Yeah.
I still have a right to say. As every resident does. No, you use any damn thing you want. The only thing that can stop you is public opinion, depending on how much you care about that. And there's still some people that are back here.
Yeah, it's one of the areas we identified.
Phillipsville Road is dangerous. It's a danger to school children. I've been dealing with this for years, and ledge is coming up through the road, and icy spots right there on the hairpin turn. State won't fix it.
High school kids, they started. They run up to the top of Caleb Hill every day after school now. So it's like, today it was.
Are you going to do an introduction, or do you just want me to
It
kick it
won't
off?
make any difference what the state does to the road.
Yep.
But if nothing is done, that just compounds the problem.
Yeah, I've got a couple people here with me, so they can run the next.
There's some people who are like, yeah, let the state take it, let the state fix it. We've tried that. This is not a new idea.
Yeah.
So then, if we're gonna get the road fixed, what does that mean? What does that look like for us?
I think the last time I just used
We tried to get
the one on the
federal
desk.
funds. No. The state's
Yeah.
willing to give us $3.2 million. They're paying for the engineering either way. So we can walk away from this deal now for no money.
Yeah.
Spinning our wheels. But that doesn't fix the road.
No.
My question is $3.2 million going to actually fix the road, or are we going to inherit a problem?
So here's my issue. I don't think that 3.2 million takes care of any of the line of sight issues. At least that's not what it was.
No, especially on the hairpin turn.
Well, that whole section right there is always a wash.
Yeah.
Pest house, that whole thing needs to be straightened out. Like if you do,
There's nothing to do there. Where do you go put the road?
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
We're stuck with a cart path that turned into a road.
yeah.
Okay, okay. Where that road is, and it goes up the hill. It also goes.
All right, we're gonna
that
get
used
we're
to
gonna
go
get started.
all the way over to School Street.
Yep.
Over here.
Okay. Thanks.
And so that's why that road goes up at that angle.
All right, welcome.
Yep.
This is the second meeting we've had. Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Right away after.
Yep.
Okay, great. This is our second meeting to talk about the reconstruction of Caliph Hill Road. Just so I know how much background story to go into, can I have show of hands of the people that were here for the meeting back in April? Okay, so most people, good. I can get this thing to advance. Here we go. My name is Brian Colburn. I work for an engineering firm named McFarland Johnson. We're out of Concord. We've been hired by the town to look into Caliph Hill Road and what it's going to take to improve its condition. With me tonight is Brian Patinskis and Sierra Dahl. They've been helping on the project from my office. So quick agenda of what we plan to cover tonight. I'll keep the background relatively brief since most people are familiar with the project. Just summarize what we heard back in April at the listening session, and then get into what we've been up to since then. So as a refresher, the funding for this project is coming from a legislative bill that passed in 2021 that set aside $3.25 million to reconstruct Caliph Hill Road, with the end result of that reclassifying it from a state-owned road right now to town-owned, because it's currently Class 2. So that's state jurisdiction and maintenance, but the town does have the responsibility right now for winter maintenance. And we're currently in the engineering study phase of that project. We were here on April 11th, had pretty good turnout. The goal of that meeting was for us to hear, make sure we understood the issues that the town wanted to get corrected as part of this project, and other known issues. So we heard a lot about water and drainage, including icing issues in the winter, correcting the flooding that's occurring on a private property, making sure there's adequate ditches along the road to get the water off. And then we also heard about these last two bullets. There's some site distance issues around the crest curves. We have a slide on that later on. But we also heard we didn't want to make this road so wide open and so easy to see that speeds would increase drastically, because there's a fair amount of concern with the speeds that are already out there on the road. So you've probably seen, I think this was back in May and June, there were survey crews that went up and down the road, identified the existing right-of-way limits, surveyed the pavement, surveyed out in the woods, a fair distance away from the pavement. We also had a geotechnical company come out and perform borings, so drilled holes underneath the pavement, so we understood the condition of the soil, how thick the existing pavement was. And they, based on that and their observations of the existing pavement, they produced some recommendations for us. We've had people out delineating the wetlands adjacent to the streams. Once we had the survey, we reviewed that roadway geometry to figure out kind of the site distance and what that correlates for speed. We've completed our initial drainage study, so we've looked at the watershed areas for all the culverts and have come up with new sizes for them. And we've taken all this information and come up with what we are estimating the cost of the project would be. So based on those geotechnical borings, which again, were about every 400 or 500 feet through the whole 2 miles, the firm has recommended that where the pavement's in good condition, so just some minor cracking and not a lot of frost heaving, they're recommending adding 2 more inches of pavement. These areas are generally at the tops of the hills, or there's decent slope where it's not flat and hasn't seen a lot of water damage. In areas where the pavement is starting to deteriorate, starting to see that cracking in the, especially in the wheel ruts, it's demonstrating that the subbase isn't as strong as it needs to be. So they're recommending reclaiming the existing pavement. And I have a picture to explain what reclaiming is for those that don't know. And then installing 4 inches of new pavement on top of the pavement reclaim. For pavements in really rough shape, so this is generally towards the edges of the road, especially on the southern end down by Clark, we would actually dig up the subbase, install 18 inches of new gravel or crushed stone, and then put the 4 inches of pavement on top of that. And again, that's generally near the roadway edges where the pavement started to kind of crack and fall away. So for those not familiar with what a pavement reclaiming is, it's a large machine that has a big drum with teeth on it, and it grinds up the pavement as it goes along and mixes it with the gravels that are below the pavement. By doing this, it's making that underlayment stronger than it is today. It's a cost-effective way to get more strength out of your subbase without digging it all up and bringing in new stone. Probably have seen this done around various towns nearby. It's common practice. So those areas of reclaim are identified here. I tried to line it up with street addresses so people can get a sense of if they know where they think the bad areas of pavement are. So again, that first big stretch down by Clark, we would reclaim that first 2,000 feet, and then there are 4 other sections that we would do the reclaim. The areas of full depth are scattered throughout the project. That would have taken a long list to put. Generally, they're 4 to 6 feet wide on the edge of the road. Everywhere else, we would just add 2 more inches of pavement to what's out there today. Based on these recommendations, they're anticipating the roadway would achieve a 10 to 15 year design life. It doesn't sound very long, but it's pretty much the design life for most pavement structures in this area of the country. It's not to say at 10 or 15 years that the pavement's completely shot. What they're saying is in 10 to 15 years, you're going to need to do some maintenance work. It could be crack sealing. It could be a thin overlay over the whole road. And generally, this is what most geotechnical and engineering firms would say is a maintenance cycle for any paved road in the Northeast. To put it in perspective, the roads that DOT funds heavily, so like the interstate, they're on a 7 to 8 year cycle. Numbered routes that see a lot of traffic are on this kind of 10 to 15 year pavement treatment cycle. As you know, roads that they don't have a lot of funding for, like town roads, they kind of run by they get to it when they can get to it mentality. As I said, we looked at drainage. So in areas where basically the existing ground is at or near the level of the road, we would recommend installing roadside ditches. I've got a picture here of Sandoggerty Pond Road over in Northfield. Pretty similar treatment that was done a few years ago. It's 1 foot wide or 1 foot deep, 2 feet wide on the bottom. This does result, and especially in the areas of the road where the slopes are really close, this is going to open up installing ditches in those areas would open up the view shed quite a bit because all the vegetation within that excavation area is going to be removed. Also, we would increase culvert sizes. In general, we found that yes, the existing culvert sizes are undersized and will need to be increased by, I would say, roughly about a foot in diameter at each location. So I think we found four culverts. And then within these ditches, we'd be installing or proposing to install a series of catch basins and pipes to catch all that water and convey it safely away from the road. And then we would be coordinating with landowners once we get to that stage. So I don't think this slide's going to surprise anybody, but we did look at the existing roadway profile and compared it to the design standards we use to establish sight distance based on speed. So you can see here, and like I said, I don't think it's going to surprise anybody, but at the various addresses where those crest curves are, you can't see very far. If people are going 30 miles an hour and the sight distance is 20, if there's somebody on the other side of the hill, that means you're going to have to stop relatively quickly, or a lot quicker than they would want to. We didn't hear a lot about crash history here, so I think run into this issue a lot on projects where it feels uncomfortable, and when we apply the math to it, it shows it's uncomfortable. But this is something the town's going to need to decide: is are these to the point where you want to have us look at corrections? Because again, these exist and we know the speed that people drive now. The concern is if you start to flatten these curves down, one, it's a pretty significant impact. It's cost to do that because that whole section of the crest curve now becomes a full reconstruction area. It will likely involve more property impacts because as the road lowers, the ditch work needs to go out farther onto private property. And now people can see farther. And generally when people can see farther, they feel more comfortable driving at a higher rate of speed. So some of the, so
You don't have to say anything.
I don't.
You listening? He says don't go over 30 and the speed limit's 35.
When you come over that ridge at Eversource Park. Lucky, garbage can or two hit.
Sections of Winter Street. I just.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing me.
Yep. So based off that recommendation, our analysis of the survey, we've generated a preliminary estimate of 3.2 million. So basically right at the funding that you have now. Obviously there's some caveats to this. It does include $600,000 of drainage improvements. So, fairly robust budget to correct the issues you have now. This is an all-in estimate. So it's not just the construction, it's finishing the design engineering, it's having somebody on site during construction to monitor construction, to make sure you're going to get what you're paying for. We have a 10% contingency for unknowns. At this stage of the game, that's somewhat low. There's not a lot. We would have a higher contingency in an urban area because when you dig underground, you run into things you don't anticipate. This is fairly rural road, so I think the risk of that is somewhat low, which is why we put that contingency at 10%. But I just wanted to put that out there. This is a cost as if you were to build the road today. Based on if this project is to move forward, this is likely a 2026 construction project. Final design would happen through 2025. We would bid it in the winter of 25 so that the contractor could start in 26. So that's 2 years of price inflation that are likely to occur. We don't estimate inflation because we're not economists, but I think it's safe to assume that our 3.2 number will go up by the time this project goes to bid. And we are currently not including any costs to improve the site distance. So really what we're here for today, well, I'll go to this next slide just to remind people the process here. So based off some discussions with DOT to get this project going and understanding kind of the rules of the funding that the town has, this is the process that we're following. So we're in the engine, the state allowed the town to do an engineering study before agreeing to move forward with the project to determine, is the funding enough? Is the project what the town wants to turn the road over? There are two paths after this. One is the town decides to continue to move forward, and we move into preliminary design, final design, and ultimate construction, and this ends with the town owning the road. The town could, as part of this engineering study, say, you know what, we're not getting a product that we're willing to take over, so we don't want to proceed any further than this study. So I know that was a kind of a quick presentation. We're about halfway, 2/3 of the way through our engineering study, and thought this was a good time to come out to the public and the select board and let you know where we are. It's somewhat tricky that our estimate came in right at the funding number. I know I'm getting some raised eyebrows on that, but the big things are that can change that is does the town have a different opinion on the reclaim limits? I think some people that I've talked to about this project thought, this should be fully reclaimed from stem to stern. The borings didn't show that potential need. I think the cracking that's occurred since the last overlay has held up pretty well. So that's why we're, comfortable just going with some additional pavement in some areas, but obviously we're looking for that feedback. So as reclaim limits go up, price goes up. To give you a sense, if we were to reclaim the entire road, the project budget would increase to roughly $4 million at that point. So well beyond the funding that's available right now. We're also looking for feedback on, are there some of those curves? And if we get in that discussion, I can bring that list back up to help. But is there an interest in flattening any of those curves and increasing the site distance? And then really, I think the next logical step is once we figure out the answers to those first two bullets and have a new cost number, is we're going to need to initiate a discussion with DOT. We're likely over the number. So what are their opportunities? Are there any opportunities for them to find additional funding? Most of their funding comes with some sort of town match. There may be funding that doesn't. That's part of the discussion. But I think before the town approaches DOT, I think having your position in place and kind of the first proposal to them would be good. Oh, any questions on presentation?
Once again, and I repeat myself, but The study you did on the speed bumps. And I live on, very interested in improvement. Scares me that they're gonna go fast. Gotta go faster. I just would like to express. Years of design life that you calculated, factor in that practice continuing? Because the sub base is inferior. It's not highway grade, you know. Oil trucks come down, you know.
I'll have to get back to you on that answer about
Just
the
take a look at it,
spring.
because we doctor something. I don't know if it's a state. Number two, energy continues to rise. How many miles of road is it?
It's about 2 miles.
2 miles. 2 miles. And you calculate how much asphalt that is? Price putting a driveway in. This 3.2 mil, you're not even close. You're going to be. I don't know if the town can afford to pick up that slack. Thirdly, many of the town roads that we have, they don't get lined every year. Night, especially during sunset, it's difficult to know where you are on some of these roads without I liked it on Caleb Hill because other roads don't necessarily have. That been factored in the annual maintenance. Signage is in place, the culverts are cleaned, the line, you know, the brush. That has to be factored in. I don't know if the state takes care of it now, it comes out of the local shed, but things happen, and we
I mean, yeah.
Can you please ask if there's anybody online that would like to comment?
Sure. I didn't know. I mean, I'll just answer that question. I mean, I know that the discussions that the select board and we're going to have about this project as we move forward are going to take future maintenance costs into consideration.
Yeah, we'll tell you, the state workers, they actually addressed it real quickly. Town, they've been putting granite curbs in the center of town for 20 feet, and then they don't do it. I'm not really excited about turning over the maintenance of town employees that are already overwhelmed. Stop them in the very.
Is there anyone online that has a comment?
Thank you.
Kathy Mitchell, 413 and 416 Caleb Hill. My concern is this is a state road and the state should maintain it. The state should take care of it. And this crazy deal that Tilton is going to have to own this road, and 10 to 15 years from now, we're going to have to find 3.2 million, except it'll be way more. And right now I heard tonight our budget for the year is 115,000. This is going to strangle this community if we have to be paying for road replacement or repairs. And on top of that, there's a website that lists all of the culverts, the outlets, the inlets, the pipe, and the drainage systems on Caleb Hill. And I knew there were some bad spots. I'm stunned at the number of culverts and various other items that are listed as fair. There were 6 listed as good. I mean, it was whoopee, but we're going to be responsible for maintaining or fixing the 16, 26 fair culverts. And we don't have that kind of money. It's a state road. The state should fix it. You want to spend 3.2 million, fine. But don't make generations to come have to pay higher taxes for this particular road. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Our maintenance crew, the DPW is wonderful. They do a great job around town. This is not in their purview. This is something else altogether. And it's sort of like we're being told we're going to get this, but we have to pay for it forever. It's not our road, it's a state road. It's sort of take care of it yourself, please.
The other comment that I had is the state has the ability through the gasoline tax to harvest all that money for highways, bridges, roads, these secondary roads and all that. So they have a steady stream of cash every year. And all the out-of-staters that come in and they vacation up here, or they have a second home or whatever, they pay into that. We don't have that luxury. And this lady over here is correct that it sounds good at the beginning, but eventually, it's going to cost us. And our taxes are already high. I mean, they're only going to go up more.
Pat, go in the back.
Pat Constantino, Selectmen. I agree with Kathy. I mean, the reason why we're in the Caleb Hill Road is in such disrepair is the state has not done their job. And we have been trying for years and years and years to get them to do their job. So I'm not in favor of spending money after this 3.2, taking over the roads after they spend $3.2 million to fix the road after not working on it for years and years and years and years. They haven't done their job. And there's many more in the town. Thank you.
Dana DeCormier, 164 Caleb Hill Road. I'd be curious to find out the general consensus of the board itself going forward with this project. Are you guys in favor of going forward or not? In a whole or as
Take a vote
individuals?
right now.
I don't think we've ever
Don't have
talked
all
about
the
it as a board.
information. I'm hesitant, I will say that.
Well, that's a non-commitment.
We haven't
Yeah, it is.
we haven't taken a vote as a board yet, Dana.
Okay, okay.
And because we haven't had all the information up, and we still don't have all the information.
Well, point blank, at the end of the day, what does the town have to gain at the end? Except more maintenance, more cost, more everything on the taxpayer. And to disagree with you on the state, 2 years ago, they went through and redid that whole road. They did drainage, they did under drain, they had a high bucket, they bucketed all the tree limbs, and they did 2 coats of hot top. They did a base and a top. And then even after fixing a lot of things, which even if you guys do without changing all the cross pipes and stuff, they just had one fail down by Eric's house there that they had to change this summer. So if they don't do everything complete, 2 years, a year down the road, you can get failure.
Dana, that's after we rode on a bus with the senator, executive council, commissioner of DOT, and showed them how the school bus had to ride on the wrong side of the road, go in the wrong direction because there were boulders sticking up in the road. After 3 years trying to get her to come up and actually walk the road and show her where the problems were. So pardon me if I don't share your.
That's fine. You're entitled to that.
Thank you.
But I know they did a lot of work and a lot of cost.
Not in a lot of it over 15 years, 17 years that I've been a selectman, they have not.
And how would you address the issues where the ledge is right up to the top of the edges of the road and whatnot? For drainage and for that.
Yeah, so when we put in the drainage, we would remove the ledge within the
So you'd have to do blasting.
Yeah, I don't think there's ledge there.
Well, there's a lot of places where ledge outcrop is. Absolutely. Yeah, right across the street.
Where they left it.
Right in front of your house. Yeah. So, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
I think these questions should be keep the questions directed to McFarland, please, because he's supposed to be answering our questions. If you would like, after McFarland answers all your questions, if you would like to address the board, we can answer all your questions after that.
Yep.
Yes, it's John Scanlon, Selectman. One of my concerns is what the cost will be in 10 years to, as Dana expressed, to put the recoat, maybe the wear coat and all that on it. So if we know what that cost is, and then we figure out our inflation, once we take ownership of the road, we will have to go and start adding additional funds to our highway maintenance fund. So the year after it's put in, we're going to have to start raising the taxes to supply the money in 10 years to fix that road. So our reserve account, capital reserve, yeah. So I didn't know if it's possible to project how many, what that maintenance would look like and how many yards of the pavement it would take to do it. I don't know if that's something that could be.
So I think there's two ways to answer that question. I mean, we can recommend a maintenance program to keep the road in tip-top shape.
Mm-hmm.
Very few towns have the ability to perform that. I mean, you'd be out there as we say, like an engineer is going to tell you every 10 to 15 years you should be doing maintenance to a road. I think the realistic thing is that's just not going to happen, right? I mean, towns don't have the money to do that on the roads they already own.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, I've answered this question sometimes by saying, well, we would look at your maintenance program on your other roads. And it's if you're spending $150,000 on 10 miles, okay, we're adding 2 miles to your inventory. So you can prorate it, prorate it that way. Obviously those are two wildly different numbers. But it's important for everybody to understand, yes, you own the road. It's, things that go wrong are going to be the town's responsibility moving forward. I think to the drainage question and potential failure, I mean, our estimate includes replacing everything right now. We're not keeping a single pipe. When installed correctly, drainage pipes are expected to last 50 years. Maintaining those drainage pipes, making sure there's not beavers putting dams on the top of them or debris getting caught, that's what damages drainage is lack of maintenance. Catch basins would need to be cleaned out because once they start getting clogged, that's when water starts going around them, and that's what causes the damage. So I hope that answered your question. I mean,
Yes.
certainly if we develop a maintenance program of, I think, something realistic, then yeah, we can put costs to that. Again, it's going to be in kind of today's dollars. So, future inflation is not something I'm educated on guessing on. So,
No.
Yeah, it was.
Oh yeah, Robert Trousdale, 394 Caleb Hill Road. I kind of agree. I know this probably is more directable to the select board than the engineering firm, but I agree with Kathy that this is a state road, and Pat summed it up. It's a state road. The state should be picking up the tab for this and basically living up to their responsibility and looking after the road, and the ongoing maintenance is just extra cost. We're basically getting a pig in a poke. There's no upside for us to take over the road. All it will mean is costs further down the road. And okay, the state may not be doing a bang up job, but by the time the 10, 15 year lifespan's up, the town probably won't be doing a bang up job either. So I don't see any upside to assuming the road on a town basis. Yeah, we'll basically get a nice road for a couple of years, and then we'll be back to square one, only this time we're footing the bill.
I asked the question, what's the state's participation? Or is
So I can answer that. So the 3.2 million right now is 100% state money.
State is stepping up.
But their bill is caveated that the bill as written right now conditions the spending of that money on the town taking the road over.
Right.
Right.
The inflation.
It's likely to,
everything
yeah,
going up.
it's likely to go up.
I see no advantage.
You have a comment? Yeah.
Zach LaCroix, 321 Caleb Hill Road. I had a question around the ditch work. Did this plan, remind me, include ditch improvements for the entire road, or were they just sections? The 2 foot by 1 foot.
Where the road's higher than the ground next to it, we wouldn't need to install a ditch. This is mainly for the areas where the road is either at the level or there's hills going up.
Okay.
Wherever we need them to make sure
that's
there's no water on the road.
that's second point of concern. But segueing off of that question, for the areas where the ditches would be improved, I know specifically there are areas where the road is so narrow, like there's a stone wall right on the asphalt. What are the plans to work with the landowners in the events that the road inevitably has to be widened to accommodate that 2 foot by 1 foot ditch? As an example, like I have a hayfield in front of my house. I'm in one of the most narrow sections of the road. The stone wall would inevitably have to be pushed into the field. And what else you guys uncover through that activity? So like, what's the answer there?
So the answer right now is we're not that far in design to have detailed discussions. Our goal to this point has been to get as good a cost estimate as we can, so we can start to have these discussions about, are we even doing a project? If the project were to move forward, yes, there'd be extensive coordination with the landowners. I don't envision the town exercising eminent domain for this project, so it's all going to be discussions and hopefully amicable compensation if temporary rights are needed or we need to move a stone wall into somewhere. We're not anticipating needing to move the road. The road's going to stay where it is. The ditches would be installed outside. I do know there were a few locations where, the hillside was very close to the road. We have a different concept for how to handle drainage in that area with using curbing. So we're not, because we looked at putting a ditch there, and I think the cut slope would go back like 100 feet to the house. So, we wouldn't do that. I mean, the goal here would be to improve drainage. Ideally, we would stay within the right of way. But in areas where we would have to go outside the right of way, it would most of the time just be a temporary impact. We'd reseed it. If there's a permanent impact, then obviously that would be discussed with the property owner.
I know I've lived on a road and paid taxes on a road. dollars over and maintain it. Road's nice, I can tell you that. I don't take that away.
You have a comment here?
Yeah, Thomas Trousdale, 394 Califell Road. I was curious, what remains to be done on the engineering study before it's put to a vote? What other data are you guys collecting and coming up with?
So there's a little bit more work on the drainage study that we would do. We'd finish the wetland delineation. The big part is, are we recommending improving site distance? I haven't heard anybody ask for that yet, so probably not going to explore that much further.
I'm not big on that.
What's that?
I don't think that would be a good idea.
Okay. And then the rest of it is, what's the town's position? I mean, that's the report will conclude with what I recommend, what the recommended plan of advancing this project is. It's going to rely heavily on input from the select board. We're going to have discussions with DOT as we write that section. It could say, we've done the study, they say the town has no interest in taking this road over, and conclude that if the state were to do the project on their own, this type of treatment would cost this much money. It could conclude with, the town has decided to take the road over, but they want full reclaim the whole way to make sure it's as good as it can be. And the only way they're going to take it is if the state comes up with 100% more money, or maybe the town's willing to chip in. So there's a lot of those discussions that have to happen before we finalize our report, and I think present it certainly like a town vote. I don't see that coming anytime soon. Yes, sir.
So it appears that we've now concluded that the road is deficient and it needs a lot of financial help to get it back to standard. Will the state acknowledge that we're deficient in staying on top of it, even if we don't take the road over? The work has to be done. You're a licensed, registered firm. You do business with the state as well. I mean, you can't just throw this study in the trash and say, okay, we're not going to take the road over. It's just say if it went that direction, we don't get the dough. And then secondly, I think there should be a vote for all the citizens that live and pay taxes on this road. I mean, I don't know of any selectmen that live on this road and wait for the buses and watch the speeds and all that. So there's one. Okay. But it is our road, and we came here. I mean, obviously we vote for these people and they make the decision, but they're also going to, if they do vote to take the road, they're voting to tax everybody.
So I won't speak for DOT.
I can speak for that.
But okay, yep.
I can assure you that the Board of Selectmen will take the information from the engineers. We will meet with DOT. We'll have many meetings with DOT. And in the end result, we will bring back the information to Califell residents and all the residents that need to be, and find out what exactly you folks want to do with this. We are not going to make a vote without your input. We'll have another public hearing before we make that vote. I can promise you that.
Okay. So based off what I'm hearing, and this is more, I think, directed to the board, I don't think we should advance this engineering study much further until we start to have those discussions with DOT. What we're looking for is some direction on the reclaim limits. And, we can send a memo that kind of summarizes this, if that would help. And improving site distance. So we can quickly, if it's the reclaim limit, we can quickly adjust the cost estimate. That's easy. If you want us to look at some improvements to site distance, that might take a little bit of effort. But it's, it's within our budget right now. But reason we came here tonight is we didn't want to start doing those investigations until we knew kind of where things were headed. So our next step is to talk to DOT. I think it sounds like the board needs to confer probably before we schedule that, right? I would suggest you reach out to some communities that have gone through this conversion. I can get a list from DOT of towns in the past 10 years that they've rebuilt their class 2 road and turned it to class 5. I know Sandoggerty Pond Road in Northfield was one of those. And the questions that got asked tonight, I would ask those communities about why did they decide to go forward with it versus just staying on a state maintained road. I know Franklin's been approached. They have some of these roads. They've been approached a couple of times. They continue to elect not to convert, to keep it state maintained. So, I think the state's offering this option because, and this is just my opinion, they're offering this option because they're not in the business of maintaining roads like Califield Road, right? Their whole system is built up now to take care of the interstates, state numbered routes. And so, as you've experienced that this is not a priority road for them over the past however many years. So, one advantage is this becomes your road. You don't have to get a DOT driveway permit anytime somebody wants to build a new driveway or modify their driveway on the road. If something breaks, you then have the capacity to fix it on your timeline versus waiting for DOT to find money. I mean, those are some pros that obviously you brought up a lot of concerns about future maintenance costs, obviously huge thing that outweighs that. So I think getting some feedback from some communities that have done this might be helpful. So if after you meet and discuss, you want me to reach out to DOT and get that list for you, I can do that. So at this point, yeah, I would say we'll probably put a pause on our engineering study and wait for some direction to set up a meeting with DOT. Any other final questions? Any questions from online?
We appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much. All those that want to stay and ask the questions to the selectmen, you're welcome to.
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. I can't complain.
How's your daughter?
Fine.
Give her my regards.
So I was under the impression that the town had to vote.
Because, the cars going like this, like.
It's like I get to vote.
Really?
If I had to vote right now, I would vote no. I don't have all the information, but I don't think $3.2 million will fix that road well enough that 2 or 3 years we're going to have major issues. They're going to have to pony up the proper amount of money. 3.2 is a low ball.
Yeah. March. Well, they matched their proposal. The money available.
And that's exactly right. If we want to improve the line of sight, if we want to get much bigger culverts, if we want to dig more dry wells or whatever to put this water into, it's going to cost.
Okay, folks, if you want to stay around, you're welcome to stay around, but we have the meeting to continue.
Now, but like he said, with the way inflation goes, there's going to be another $1 million. Yeah. Absolutely.
We're going to talk about Academy Avenue next. Brian, we're going to get some mics.
I'm used to it.
There.
That'd be some of the alternatives.
So we think I just go through like.
This is full scope.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Oh, thanks.
Do we have his report in here? Okay, I got it.
You ever come out of recess?
No.
No, you said 7 minutes, so.
Oh, well, yeah.
We said 7 minutes. It was it ended. Okay, so we welcome Brian Holborn and
Brian Patinskas, also from McFarland Johnson.
okay, and okay. Welcome. In this, we're going to talk about switching gears a little bit. Academy Street retaining wall.
Yeah. So
You got to turn it on and talk right into these. Okay, it's green. You're on.
Madam Chair, might I just remind the board that I did call Brian. The question was the number that we received on Academy Street and what specifically it included. There was some confusion, I think, as I recall, that 59,000, that number provided by Brian was in fact is in fact the engineering fee. It does not include any construction, and I believe it was one of the selectmen that asked for specifics and follow-up, and Brian was gracious enough to come here tonight. So thank you for allowing me to interrupt, just to clear the board.
So we have some extra copies
Here you
here.
go.
Yeah, just so
Should be in your binders.
okay. So just a brief intro. I mean, the town asked us to provide a quote to provide engineering design for a new replacement retaining wall along Academy Street to allow the roadway to reopen. So Brian Patinskas actually put this proposal together for us. He would be the one leading the project. So I'll give you a brief description and then we'll answer any questions you have.
Thanks. Yeah, so like we just heard, so this scope does include full design up to bid, so the contractor can build it after. Or the contractor will bid and then build it after we give them the full set of plans, specs, and all that stuff at the end. So if you go to page, I guess it would be Exhibit A, it goes through all the tasks that we have. So I don't know if anyone had specific questions on the tasks that we're doing, but I can answer anything you might have.
So this is just for engineering.
Correct.
Okay, so there's an issue here that we have two firms bidding on two different things. So I'm going to, was there not an RFP sent out on this?
There was not. No.
There was not. Okay.
Madam Chair, I believe there was an RFP sent out. Tim's checking.
Oh, yeah. So Tim did send an email requesting this. That he did. I was confusing it with like something in the, did you publicly put it in the newspaper? I don't know that, but yes, you requested these proposals for engineering design.
Can I see the email? Yeah, I mean, we have two bids that have come in, Tim, and one is for both engineering and replacing all of it. So is that really fair to you folks, or is that unfair to them? So, Board, you want to?
I think that in that last conversation that we had at the last meeting about it, we wanted them to come and clarify some of the project, or at least go
And they
through it.
clarified that this is only engineering only.
Yes.
Okay, so they only got an email asking for engineering. Am I
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes, I think that was part
So
of the conversation.
what did the other group get?
Tim asked the same thing of both companies.
Yeah. I thought that's what Tim had
Yeah.
said. As
Yeah.
he
Okay.
had
Yeah,
asked.
and it's just a vast difference in numbers
Right.
between the two quotes, Madam Chair. And I think that if I might be summacious to say the opinion is that maybe that number, that second quote was high, extremely high, because maybe they were not interested in the job. If I might be as bold to say.
Yeah, I wouldn't be that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, how about, since you guys are here, I mean, I say we go through it, right? I mean, you guys are here. Let's go through it. Yep. Tell us what you got. I know we looked at we did have the initial work, the initial write-up. So can you kind of just give a review of this for us?
Sure. Yeah, so I'll just go task by task from
that'd be-
Exhibit A, if that's
that'd be great.
probably the easiest way to follow it. So task A is information gathering. So that would just be two of our staff going out into the field, just walking it and see the site conditions. Pretty standard thing that we would normally do. Task B would be the actual survey. So we have a sub-consultant that we'd have do that. So GM2, which also did Caleb Hill Road.
Yep.
So they would get a survey that we can design off of.
Nice people.
Yeah.
I talked to a few of them.
And then task C would be the geotechnical investigation. So much like Caleb Hill Road, they would be out there drilling borings, and they provide us with a report at the end, and that would give us the recommendation for the type of wall to use.
Okay.
I think that was about it for them. And then task D is utility coordination. So we would reach out to all the utility companies in the area just to see what's out there to make sure everything's lining up on our plans where they should be. And then there's also going to be some relocations that are going to be required with all the digging we're doing for the wall. So we'll also coordinate that with the different utility companies.
I do have one question. The boring. So so it's not a very large road, but we know, we basically know where the worst part is. It would be to bore the entire street.
They're scoped to do 3 borings total along the wall. So there's 2 behind the wall and 1 in front of the wall. They're scoped to do.
Okay. All right. That's what I just want to make sure. Okay.
Which leads me to comment and ask, we had a ground penetrating radar survey done of that road, and there were, I think the quote is, significant voids in the underpinnings of that road. I don't know if that's like they filled it in with stumps and the stumps have rotted away or whatever. Do you go over there and look at that wall and what's behind it?
So I guess one of the questions I would have, Joe, is that study. that was done. Do you guys get access to that to see like what that looks like, or do you do? Because they did. It was years ago.
I still have it sitting right on my desk.
But I'm still wondering.
But it's,
I mean,
I guess what I'm saying, since then,
It wouldn't be any better. Those voids didn't close up, all right? So, but that would give you a start, maybe?
Yeah, whatever information you have would be helpful. So
Yeah, well, I'll make sure I get that, bring that down to town hall, because I was just looking
Probably
at
couldn't
that
hurt.
the other day. Okay,
all right.
All right. So task E would include doing a feasibility study. So much like what we're doing on Caleb Hill Road right now, doing the engineering study, we'll produce a study, send it to the select board, review it, come to a meeting, and we'll decide if we're going to move forward with we'll come up forward with 2 different wall types. And then after that meeting, we'll have the wall type we're going to move forward with after that. And then actually task F includes the meetings with the select board, and then also 1 meeting with the public as well. And then once we're done with those 2 meetings, we'll be able to move to final design. So at that point, we'll produce final plans, final specs, and then we'll be able to get this out to bid for a contractor to bid on at that point. And I believe we were hoping to do this in about 4 months. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, our initial thought was we didn't know if you wanted to time up having the bids for town meeting or something like that. So, if we were to start relatively soon and could get the survey and the borings done before winter, potentially get to that point of bidding it this spring. Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of funding you have lined up yet for this. But that's, and the feasibility study that Brian mentioned earlier, that would give you some budget numbers to start with at that point. We'd get you kind of dialed in as to what you can. Actually, in talking to Scott at the last meeting, one of the wall types that we're considering are these blocks. It's not outside the possibility of that type of wall being constructed by town forces. They're pretty easy to put together. I believe the wall manufacturers provide a rep to help guide people how to install them. Could be a potential way to save some money.
we actually had a guy that was going to do that very thing. My question is that with that, just slapping another wall up there does not address the issue with the roads. It's on a hill. Gravity always wins. Trust me. You're an engineer. You know these things. So putting up Lincoln logs without addressing what's behind them is probably short-sighted.
So this isn't just the wall. Most of the 2 wall types we're going to look at will require pretty decent limits of excavation behind them. So we would be digging up the old wall. Will likely be almost exposing half of the road, making sure we get and find all those voids, making sure those are filled. When we put the road back and the wall, we would be addressing the drainage at that point to make sure that we're not having water flowing over the face of the wall anymore and eroding issues such as that.
Do you even know what Lincoln logs are?
I do. I don't know about those 2.
Right.
But
I do too.
I was gonna say, that was a toy when I was a kid that you could build walls with and stuff.
I know.
Yeah. God, I'm old.
Okay, so it's not just the wall. It includes everything. Okay, correct. Because that would be obviously the biggest thing is the drainage and the structure behind that wall. So, okay, all right.
Yep, these wall types come with, there's an under drain pipe that goes behind them.
Yep.
Most of the backfill it's free draining soil. So any water that's coming subsurface down the hill towards the wall would get caught by that structure and piped away before it got to the face of the wall.
Okay.
How soon do you need a decision months window allow us to make a decision. A couple weeks, because we're.
Yeah, that would probably still be fine. Yeah, as long as we don't get to winter time and we can't do borings. Yeah, that lines up.
Into January, we have to have the warrant articles ready to go on the ballot. After that, it's,
We have to have it before then, before the budget.
Yep.
We have to have it probably the end of December, ready for the budget. Am I
But they
right?
would need to do the boring anyways.
I get something right tonight? Okay,
you got
great.
that timeline right?
I mean, they'll need to do the boring anyways.
You don't have to clap on that one, Joe.
Credit
I
where
guess-
credit is due.
I guess that was a question for us. Is your intent to take our proposal and put it on the warrant, or was the thought to get this at least engineering started so that you would have an informed number on what it would take to rebuild the wall for this year's warrant? Because if
Yes.
these, yeah,
Yes.
because if we're not going to start this until say after town meeting, then we would need to adjust our price at that point.
We need engineering to get an informed number to put on the board.
Okay.
That's what we need.
All right.
Did I
Yeah.
get
So like
that
Brian
right,
said,
Tim?
as long as we can get the survey and the borings done before snow, that would slow us down.
I'm a
if it
yes.
snows.
Yeah, I'm a yes.
All right, so, well, I shouldn't just assume that we're gonna wait for Catherine, but I'm just gonna throw it out there.
We have 4 yeses.
Oh.
Now-
If you just want to do this, then so be it. I just, go ahead, make the motion if you want to. It's up to you. I'm just throwing it out that we've always waited for major things. I'm just being polite about it. Go ahead, Joe.
I hope Catherine is back within 2 weeks, but there's no guarantee of that. And to proceed with the engineering on Academy Street.
Never underestimate the power of Catherine.
She could change my mind, but I
Be
don't think so.
forewarned about that. Okay. A motion
I'll second Scanlon.
has been made and seconded. Discussion.
Well, regardless whether we're going to do anything for, fix it or when exactly, we need to have that information.
Yeah.
We need to, for
Yeah.
safety reasons.
Well, that's why I wouldn't want to wait.
Catherine was also.
I think she was also under that.
Maybe.
Joe?
Where does the money come from, Tim?
Capital reserve.
So if you recall earlier in the discussion, we have 115,000
Yeah.
available in capital reserve. So most likely it would come out of
For
there.
the roads, okay, I get it, yep.
I don't mean to be confused, but this is a difficult night for me to be confused. It comes from where, Tim, again? Didn't we just vote on?
The capital reserve. So
Yep.
we.
Oh, capital reserve. I thought you said something.
So-
The roads.
I thought
For
we were
roads.
going back to roads and I thought we voted on that already.
Yeah. No.
Okay, I got it. I know, I'm completely up to date now.
It's already getting late past your bedtime.
Way past.
So I do think, I think we need to move forward because I think, I agree, we're going to, one, the safety reason, right? But two, we need them to start so we can have the information to put before town meeting, right? To do. So, because we're going to need that.
So we're accepting the bid of McFarland Johnson for,
With this motion, yes.
Yes. Yep. For them to get started.
just want to be clear.
I call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Go forth
you.
and engineer.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
You-
See, that's one of those things you
Thank
keep
you.
in your binder,
Yes,
because that's
I-
gonna come up again.
I know. I am going to keep that in my.
The resident in the binder.
Yes.
Thank you all very much for coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
Thank you.
Kayla Phil is a tough one.
It was good to see you again.
Oh, concerned.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So she's she's excited. That's right. You yeah, Pike's there. What grade is he in? Nice.
To be signed payables.
It's
right over here, John.
Keegan's already he's at UNH.
Eric and I
Yeah.
have seen
on the
it, no
roads
doubt.
tomorrow.
Yeah, it's getting help.
Time flies.
He's no longer the guy who was ago.
Yeah, thank you again.
I don't know how
Appreciate
it
it.
started.
We'll see you guys.
Again.
Yeah. Okay.
Good night. Mr. Town Administrator, your first bullet, we already made a motion from 3 to 5:30, and the board already agreed. We're going to stick with that because that was our ABE. We already, even though we know the PTA has a flyer, I'll call her because I met with her this morning.
Okay.
We'll call her in the morning, and she's very willing to change that flyer.
Okay.
So it's 3 to 5:30.
Okay.
So then you can go ahead with your town administrator report. What? Go ahead. Well, hold on a minute.
1 second, Scott. I just got a quick thing. So I just wanted to ask one of the things that before I forget, with that study, one of the things that I think is important that we should at least address is the speed on Caleb Hill Road. And it is possible that we can change the speed from 35 to 30. I think it's something we should discuss. Maybe not tonight, but at some point.
I would say to you that we have tried to get speed limits changed on state roads. We cannot change the
Okay.
speed limit on a state road. 'Cause
Correct.
it's a state road. We can request
Yep.
to
Right.
the Department of Transportation down in Concord.
Yep.
They have certain classifications of speed limits for certain classifications of roads. They might change it. They might. I mean, there's no telling, but they might not.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we should empower Eric and the town administrator and Abe as a team to see if they can get it done.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
Yeah.
Hold on, John. John's like,
one of the things,
wait a
It
minute.
was very clear that the road is not safe to drive like that.
I
That
think it
was
should be
very
20.
clear. And with the calculations for sites that
Armed
the
with that
state,
information, it should be a lot easier to get the
Yeah.
state to roll
the state
over.
specifically uses very lines of sight for everything, including signage and parking spaces,
Correct.
which they hold us to.
Yeah.
So, I think it's.
I'm more than willing
looking
to
at that.
So
try to take that on.
Anytime we meet with the Department of Safety or anything on state roads or anything, they always throw back at us, like John said, line of sight, safety, line of sight. So we can just show them that chart.
Okay.
And even if they're going to keep the road,
I'm all
I
for
think
it.
they should be
But
straightening out the
Because
speed.
that's a way we could actually get the
Yep.
speed limit changed.
And look at who
If
you
I
have.
could, I would vote to change the limit right now.
I know.
Because
Okay.
I know 35 is too fast in a lot of those places.
It is.
And how are you going to make the turn on Pest House to the Pest House Road turn at
Yeah, well, you
35
can't.
miles an hour?
I think that with armed with Scott and Abe, look at the team you got.
Outstanding. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I might add that we just went through this, and Selectman Scanlon is exactly right in the discussion about putting our crosswalk signs downtown. So,
No, it's wrong. You can't do that.
Line of sight.
right,
We
line
went
of
through
sight.
it with the crosswalks when we were painting them.
You're
Line
right.
of sight.
Right.
We'll go through it again.
Yep.
And again.
Well, we
Absolutely.
appreciate you taking on that responsibility and challenge. Thank you very much.
I will do it.
They grow
Sounds
up
good.
so fast.
Tim got out just in time.
Madam, I hope Counselor Kenny's phone is close by.
Oh, I have his cell phone if you'd like it.
I do too.
That's a, g-
He's a
that's
very,
good one. I'll give
he's
you
a
his
very
cell
good
phone.
guy.
He could help us maybe if anybody
He
can.
walked it with us.
Okay. Yeah, I'm all for it.
I'll give it to you.
And I think, I do think that part of that, what we can do is, you just saw a bunch of people that live on that road that all were in agreement. I think that we could try to push it.
Right.
So, okay.
Yep.
All right.
I do too.
All right. Thank you for the time to be able to talk about that. Okay.
We're still.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay,
Town
thank you, Madam
Administrator.
Chair.
Thank you.
I don't want to rehash your costume Halloween event, but I was approached by some of the ladies at Town Hall that would like to do something with your direction and permission. I will reach out to the librarian and ask Sue and others have offered to volunteer to dig out the costumes that were part of the grant donation before they become non-usable, and ask the librarian if that's something we can ask that she allow us to do. They have both volunteered, so. I did receive, you have my report in your binders, and I won't rehash it for the sake of time. I'll briefly touch on a couple, though. I did meet with the new head of Tilton School, Derek Ryan, very nice man. Discuss some community issues that we would probably look at together and look at future meetings and involvement. So I just wanted the board to be aware of that. I did attend our expanded recycling program that Shane and the crew handled very well on Wednesday, I might add. I did send you pictures. And I might add that a couple of our employees got ice cream from a citizen, so, but went off well. I have received a notice, first off from our land use coordinator, but I got it officially today from Lakes Region Planning Commission that Selectman Jessamine, whose commissioner assignment expires November 9th, 2024. It is addressed to you, Madam Chair, but I have a meeting on the 24th. I will be attending the planning board informational meeting, and I will discuss with them. But my purpose for bringing it up tonight is to see if Selectman Jessamine would like me to recommend him for renomination to this, or should we ask them to find somebody else?
We just started the position, so totally good to go with that. And I've done it several times in the past.
Okay.
Over the years, so.
Thanks,
I would
Joe.
still go.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep. Okay. I will ask them to make sure the recommendation comes to the board from the planning board to renominate you as well. Thank you.
Or if they have a different choice, one of them wants to step into that position, you'll meet no opposition from me.
More than
because
welcome.
New blood is good blood.
I'll
They
express.
already have Nate
Yeah.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Jane.
He's the.
Jane's a
Jane's a
commissioner.
separate thing.
No, Jane's a commissioner and a director. I already called.
I thought she was just a director.
Nope, commission and so they have two. So we were hoping that you would step up.
I would continue to do it.
Okay.
I have a
Thank
meeting
you.
coming up, actually.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans.
Yeah, or Mr. Evans. Yeah, sure. Evans will do it.
I want to meet this guy.
I did get a
So do
call,
I.
Madam Chair, I did get a call from the Aging and Disability Resource Center. Acronym is ADRC, formerly known as Service Link. Spoke to a very nice lady there who asked if she could come into the town hall and set up a table, or if there was someplace that she could set up a table for their program to give resources and information to our citizens. I suggested the town hall is very small. There's really not much room there, but I did make the suggestion that they could, with board's approval, come to town meeting where they would get a great deal of exposure and set up a table with resource information. It provides food and elderly services links. It's kind of an offshoot of 211, if you will. I think it's a great idea, but obviously I told her I'd check with the board.
Did you also suggest the senior center? Because they have programs monthly.
I did make a note on here that I was going to put her in touch with somebody at the senior center. So.
All right, make
yeah.
sure you, Cindy does the programs
Cindy's.
monthly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I was going to check to see which.
I'll give you the email.
Okay.
Or,
Perfect.
Amy has it.
Is there some brochures or something on our bulletin board there?
She's going to provide them, John. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a very recent changeover. I wasn't even aware. I've heard of Service Link, but I wasn't aware of this.
A lot of people know 211, but they don't
Right.
know it as the acronyms now.
Correct.
They don't know it.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So.
So I'm in favor of town meeting. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that would be a great.
Get
yeah,
the news
They
out.
can
Yep.
set up in the
Right as you
they
go
come
in.
the
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. I will let them know that, and I will put them in touch with Cindy at the senior center as well. So, in your booklets, or to be signed, I'm sorry, tonight is the MS1. I do have in my office the reval report, cyclical reval it's referred to. And if anybody would like to see it, it's pretty in-depth, very in-depth. So I'm sure you've seen it in the past. The Granite State Mineral Contract, Shane, Public Works Director, did get a good price on that. That's the lowest salt price. We'd like to get locked in on that price before too much longer. So if you don't mind taking a vote and signing off on that, we do have, and Shane has a $12,700 surplus from 24, but we will be budgeting the same amount, 55,025.
Yeah, that was the one for this like 79.
80, 70.
Yeah, 80 a ton, right?
We
Yeah,
got at least
79.50.
2 signatures right now. I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
about
Okay.
John, but
I think I
Perfect.
signed it.
Yeah, and Pat signed it too already. So.
Yeah.
You want us to make a motion on that?
No,
No?
just sign signatures is enough.
Okay.
Okay.
just 3 signatures.
Yep.
The veterans credit forms also need to be signed. One is
Yeah.
okay, the other is not, with explanation if you haven't seen them.
Yep.
So.
The speaking of veterans credits, we also need to think very seriously the upcoming warrant articles that we did promise the seniors for putting on the warrant article for the credit for seniors. What we have to decide, and I spoke with Lauren the other day, Tuesday, was married or just single. And predominantly right now we're facing what has come in for abatements, I think, is single. But we need to look at both of them, and I asked her to give us a recommendation. I know a few months ago she gave us a recommendation on what she did, but I think she just gave it to us on, she couldn't remember whether it was single or married, and I couldn't either. So both? Okay. So we need to really think about that and vote on that.
And that was an increase, Madam Chair, on
what it was previously,
Right.
because we had over 36 people missing it by $100, $200,
Yeah.
you
Right.
know,
And-
last year because of the upgrade in the Social Security. Their 3% that we got for Social Security, it knocked them out of the park, and
Sure.
that was it.
And it's my understanding when we do a reval, we can increase those amounts, those exemption amounts.
We can increase it at any time, but particularly during the
Evaluation.
it's
Right.
right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
I believe that's all that I have. Excuse me, one last thing. We have advertised for a DPW worker. We did receive 4 applications. I have followed up with 4 people. I've got 1 confirmation out of 4 that's willing to come in for an interview. We have that advertised in several different places, but not a lot of interest right now. But Shane and I are going to interview at least this one person. We'd like to get somebody in place long before snow flies.
Yeah.
So, and with that, I do have some follow-up notes. I'll check on the senior bus. And speaking of the senior bus, I did want to let the board know that I asked Shane and his staff to, before we put the bus into service, to look at the flooring. It's probably just because they armor-alled the floor and cleaned it all up, but it is extremely slippery, and I asked them to put some tread-like device down that'll give them much more traction, because obviously we don't want somebody getting hurt. And I will follow up on the insurance, the licensing.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably what it is.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It shines though, right?
Yeah. It's all shiny.
Oh, it's very shiny.
Yes.
Yep, it's very shiny, that's for sure.
I did have one question. So I didn't read the actual job description. Are we looking for someone with CDL or something that's going to be able to
CDLB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least a B.
Yep. I just want to make sure.
If you know somebody.
I know we talked about it.
I can't apply.
You can't apply. Why not?
No, can't apply. I'll substitute plowing in the winter. No, I'm just kidding.
And the mailboxes ran scared.
In the
They did,
Not on Maple Court, there aren't any.
Anymore.
Safe.
Anymore there aren't.
Safe. Okay, so we're all set on town administrator's report. We're all set on the finance report. I mean, we are just moving right along
There we are.
here, and look at the time is at 7:30. Whew. Just, is there anybody on public? No, there's nobody online. Thank you. All right, time being 7:30. Oh, Greg, I forgot you. You're still here. Thank you.
You're part of the furniture now, Greg.
Thank you. You blended perfectly in with the furniture. Sorry about that. And the peaches were delicious, by the way.
Yeah, I told them.
Absolutely wonderful.
I told them that.
Yep.
Don't work.
Question around the taxes coming up with the commercial not keeping up with the residential. Do we have a sense of what that's going to look like yet, Tim?
Soon.
But the sooner the better, I think, for people to start putting money away, because I have a feeling, like we probably all do.
Don't wait until you
Yeah.
get the final numbers. to
Start
put
putting it away
money
now.
away. It's coming.
Yeah.
Soon. Yeah.
I think we have a large property. Will that be coming online this year?
The
Two.
the inn at the estate at Lake Winnipesaukee will not be until the spring, hopefully before April 1st, and it will be tax revenue to the town by then. And then there's another very large piece of property that's a $50 million piece of property that's coming into town very soon.
In U-Haul?
It's coming into zoning. It's continued. They're going to do a site walk, and then it's coming back. And then it goes to planning for site plan review, and that's going to bring some revenue to the town as well. We have some other projects coming in, a very large solar farm coming in the old Bel Air property. 20 acres.
I've been hearing about that for years, and yet there's no solar panels there. I mean, is there a holdup?
It just
Have to give permission for something like that?
No, it just came in. It's going into the site plan review.
So it's a different thing.
Yeah. Oh no, not the one up Caleb Hill. No, this is down Main Street, across from Bob Udo's old place. So there's a lot of projects coming in the wind that coming to fruition soon that will take some of the tax burden off of the people.
Not this year.
Not this year. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. No, you didn't, but there's hope. There's hope. All right. Any more? No. Okay. All right. The time being 7:34. I'll make a motion to move into non-public RSA 91A:3 to be that which discussed in public would adversely affect the person or persons.
Jessamine, second.
Roll call vote.
Scanlon, yes.
Adams, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Constantino, yes.
This conference will now be recorded.
Everything is in that report.
And you wanted to talk about hiring.
Good evening, folks. We're back in. I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public as they meet the needs of the non-public. 91A. Thank you.
Permanently? Temporarily?
Permanently.
Excellent. Jessamine, second.
Adams.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Is there any more business to come before us? Joe?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.